In this episode, we're going to be talking about control, getting control, and how to stay in control. So please stick around. So welcome back if you are a returning viewer. If this is the first time you're here, my name is David and this is David Copes. This channel is about my journey through my mental health, learning about myself and my mind, and sharing what I've learned with others to hopefully benefit them and really to keep myself on track. So today's episode is about control and how to get control and how to stay in control. And so one of the things that I had an issue with early on in my mental health journey is when I was trying to control things that I can't control. And so knowing what you can control is the first and possibly the biggest chunk in learning about control, how to get control, and how to stay in control. And so it's important to know that there are only three things that you can control. And that is your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. And everything else is out of your control. And I will speak for myself. When I, in the past, was the most frustrated or the most agitated or the most anxious or even the most depressed sometimes, it was when I was trying to control things that were out of my control. And so understanding that other people's actions, thoughts, and feelings are none of your business is one of the hardest things to accept, first of all, especially when you feel that it's related to you and your life. But it's also one of the hardest things to get past and to let other people think and feel and do what they want. And one of the things that I learned when I was in counseling, I remember talking to my counselor about what other people may be thinking and what they may be thinking about me. And he asked me, have you ever had any thoughts that you wish you didn't have about somebody else or another situation? Or have you ever had any thoughts that later changed about another person? And then what about feelings? Have you ever had feelings about somebody that you thought you knew and then those feelings changed? Positively or negatively, have those feelings ever changed? And so who's to say that whatever other people are thinking or feeling aren't going to change, or that they will change? You have no control over that. And so maybe somebody is thinking something negatively about you, or saying something negatively about you, or thinking something negatively about you. But it only affects you if you let it. Now, of course, there are people that have control over us, our bosses, our parents, sometimes our spouse, etc. But they only have control over what you give them control of, right? And so in a job, you can quit. In a relationship, you can leave. And with parents, I mean, it's the same thing. You can leave as well. Now, that's not to say that leaving is easy, and it's not to say that leaving is better, and it's not to say that it won't be extremely difficult. And sometimes you have to exchange one person's control for another person's control. This really has nothing to do with that aspect of it. But understand that the only way that you do anything is if somebody either physically forces you to do that, which does happen, or if they inspire you to do it. And so, of course, this can be done manipulatively. This can be done in an unhealthy way. But you control your actions for the most part, right? Like I said, unless somebody is physically moving your body, you control your actions. And of course, you control your thoughts and your emotions as well. So one of the ways to kind of monitor if you're trying to control things you can't control, and I went over this a little bit in the previous episode, is with words like should, can't, must, and need. Anytime you say somebody can't do this, or you shouldn't do this, or you should do that, or this must happen, or I need this to happen this way, these are kind of little red flags to tell you, at least to monitor, is this something that I'm trying to control that I have no business controlling, right? Is this something that is healthy, or is this unhealthy? And you maybe have had this situation in the past. I know I definitely had, where I've said somebody makes me so mad when they fill in the blank, right? The reason that statement is problematic, and the reason people mention that, and the reason people are bothered by that, is because when you say somebody makes me feel fill in the blank, it means you have given them control of your emotions. And of course, you're not comfortable with that. And that is what you're expressing when you say that. That's what I was expressing. And so when you realize that there is a way to react and there is a way to respond to situations, things start to quickly sort out. Think about it this way. Let's say you found a lottery ticket on the floor, and there's 2 tickets. And you reach down and you pick one up, and somebody goes, "Oh, can I have the other one? I'd like to have a lottery ticket as well." And you give them the lottery ticket. And so you walk into the store and you cash it in, and you find out you won $1 million, right? And your emotions go through the roof. It's legitimately yours. You're very happy. The person that you gave that other ticket to comes in right behind you, turns in the ticket. They won $10 million, right? You're the one who gave them that ticket. You had the choice between the 2 tickets. And in that moment, you have the choice to feel as if you were left out of something. I could have had $10 million instead of $1 million, right? You notice the word could, or I should have kept that, right? Or you must give me that back, or I need you to give me that back. Those are those controlling words, right? Or you could just say, you know what? Great for him. I'm $1 million better than I was before, right? And so there is a difference between reacting, which is inherently unhealthy and often negative, or responding, right? If somebody tells you something, oftentimes you're going to hear their tone or their mannerisms above the words that they're saying. And are you going to react to those things, or are you going to respond to the words that they're saying? And so I remember one time I was watching a sports show, and my mother-in-law was watching, or was in the house, I should say. She wasn't really watching. And this particular show that I used to watch is these two old men that are sports reporters, and they just yell the whole time. And my mother-in-law asked me, how can you watch this show where these guys argue the whole time? What do you get out of it? And my response to her was, they're not arguing. They just yell. They're agreeing with each other most of the time. They don't agree 100%, but they just yell. And I hear the words that they're saying, and I'm not hearing how they're saying it. And so something that was bothering her, she's not into sports, didn't really understand what they were talking about. So she's just hearing yelling. She's responding to that, or reacting to that, I should say. Where I'm hearing this conversation basically about 2 guys that were wanting to get their words in, talking about the same thing, but in a very animated way, right? It's TV, right? So that happens. And so I was responding to what they were saying and responding to my mother-in-law in a way that is on a different level than she was. And obviously she wasn't comfortable with it. I turned it off and watched it later. But it's one of those ways to have control, and you will often find that by responding instead of reacting, you can change the dynamic of that conversation. One of the things that I learned early in my mental health journey is that me being unhealthy often penetrated other people and their lives as well. And so when I came in stressed or anxious or depressed, that filtered into other people and their lives, the people that were around me. And so when other people came in, and I've used this example before, my wife will come home. She has a very stressful job, at least it's stressful some of the time. And I will feel anxious and stressed and not know why, because she's feeling anxious and stressed. It's part of me being an empath, I guess. But I have control of my emotions, whether I like to admit it or not. Now I can give into these things and react, and I often have, where she'll come home stressed and anxious, and then I feel that, and I react, and we start to fight over something that is not in relation to the amount of fighting that we're doing. Or I can respond, and it has the effect, if I am calm and assertive, of dragging her to my side and to my place where I am calm and assertive. And so it'll often calm her down if I am able to control myself and do that. And so when you think about the things that you can control, your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions, your thoughts are the basis of all of this. Your thoughts control your feelings, and then your thoughts and your feelings together control your actions. This is something that I've learned. And so one of the tricks about the thoughts, and I've talked about this in other episodes, is we're not able to not think about something. And I used the example before of not thinking about a pink elephant. It's impossible if I tell you not to think of a pink elephant to not think about it. But I can tell you something else. I can talk to you about a beach. I can explain the different aspects of the beach. And that's a way to move your brain, instead of not thinking about this, to thinking about something else, right? And as far as your feelings are concerned, this is much harder to control your feelings, but it works in the same way. If you can control your thoughts, and you maybe have heard people talk about their happy place, right? If you have something that you remember fondly, or a person that you have strong positive feelings for, if you can go back there mentally, you'll often drag your feelings back. And the reason these two things are super important is because once you, even though thinking is easy to switch and feelings is harder to switch, you can still switch them. Once you have done an action, you can't take that back. And you have no control over the repercussions that are going to go out with that ripple of your actions. And so that's very, very important. And so it is rooted in your thoughts and your emotions. And so when you control what you can control, you really control the whole universe. There's a famous saying that there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking that makes it so. And if you think about it, simple things like pork. Some people are opposed to pork for whether religious or moral or dietary reasons, and then other people love it. But pork is just pork, right? It's feelings that we add to this, right? Same thing with a sports team or a flag. When I was younger and the Soviet Union was a superpower in the world, as a kid, the Soviet Union's flag represented a lot of bad things in my mind, even though I didn't understand any of it at the time. It was very scary to me because I knew that they had nuclear weapons and that they hated me for some reason. And at the end of the day, it's just a flag. And then none of those things that I was worried about at the time. Soviet Union is not even here anymore. Obviously, those countries still exist, but the USSR as a bloc is no longer in existence. And so it's one of those things that when you realize that you are the one that puts these thoughts, these feelings, these attachments to objects and things and to people and experiences, and that you control that, it gives you all of the power in the world. And so you'll see this with children who have these amazing imaginations and can make... I saw a little kid one time, a mom had put a wooden spoon with some googly eyes on it. And she loved that spoon as if it was her doll. But it's just a spoon. We have that same power. And we have that ability to control our minds. And I'll leave you with this one last bit that was extremely powerful to me. With me having mental illness and having destroyed my life with my anxiety and my depression, I had to come to terms with the fact that it was the power of my mind that destroyed everything in my life. I lost my job. I lost my marriage at the time. I lost my apartment that I had. I lost everything. And so just like a weapon, let's say a cannon, can do a lot of damage. So why not put it and point it in the right direction, right? And so instead of making this cannon destructive, I was able to harness that power and try to move into a more positive situation. My life's considerably better. I have a lot of work to do, obviously, but it's considerably better, and it's because I started turning my sails, as it were, a little bit better in a better direction. And hopefully, if you follow me on this journey and hear the things that I've learned, maybe you can do something similar, maybe even something better. I want to thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you again next week.